Okay, so before this video starts and everybody starts commenting about it, I just want to say that I know this whole video is out of focus. Sorry, I forgot that I had it on manual focus instead of autofocus. But, you know, I didn't have enough time to record this. So we just gonna have to do this with this one take. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'll try to fix it for the next one. I know, my bad. So let's get to the video. So, welcome back to Film Talk. This time we're talking about Flashpoint. So, Flashpoint is a movie that came out in 2013. Is the one that kicked off the DC animated cinematic universe, and it's one that of the few that I've actually watched before. I've only watched two, Flashpoint being one of them. And when I watched it again, I thought that I wouldn't have that much to say because the first time that I watched it, I thought it was good. I didn't find flaws in it. But the difference between the first time and this time is that the first time I just watched it to enjoy it. This time I watched it knowing that I was going to do a review on it. That makes watching the movie very differently. One of the first points that I want to give out is that at first I thought that when I was going to watch this movie, it was going to be like one of those movies where you need to know the characters in the DC universe to really understand it, or at least you need to know the Flashpoint comics prior to this. But to my surprise, it really, like, you don't need to know any of that. The movie at the beginning, it gives you everything that you need to know about Barry, his relationship with his mother, and what is he up to these days, and all that. And yes, you might there are some things that don't get explained like that, but there are things that people already know, like you 100% already know. Like, for example, two of the only things that I think weren't explained was how Batman became Batman. But they don't need to do that because everybody knows who Batman is and how he became Batman. And also, the one that I would let pass that people might not know or might not get was the rocket ship from Superman, because I can see Superman being the kind of character that just gets thrown out there, like it gets spoken about only because of his powers, not because of his story most of the time. So that is the only one that I could say maybe you don't know that, but it's pretty simple. Like, most of the people who went to watch this already knew that. So it being the first movie, because there are movies before this one, and I didn't know at the time when I was watching it for the first time that this is the one that kicked off the cinematic animated universe for DC. And it's kind of like a great point to start a cinematic universe, because everybody who knows the Flashpoints resets everything. So this is like the best way to start a cinematic universe that you already had going. Like, you already had all these movies, and it's like they weren't connected, but now you can connect them from this point onward. The movie straight up does a well job by telling you everything you need to know and setting it up so everything you see, it doesn't come as a surprise. And the movie moves in such a fast but consistent pace. It doesn't make you feel like you're wasting time. Everything is there for a reason, and that is one of the other good things that I can say about this movie, because it's like an hour and a half. It gives you everything you need to know within that hour and a half. And if you know that this is going to set up what comes in the future, then Flashpoint is all you need to start a cinematic universe. So, like always, when talking about Flashpoint, one of the best things is the alternate takes on every single character that we already know and how the story affects everything. And I think that one of the best things about this is that when Eobard Thawne, which is Reverse Flash, when he is explaining to Barry what he did and how it changed everything, like Barry is saying that, but things in the past shouldn't have been changed because, he only changed one thing, which was the murder of his mother. He tried to save her, and even things in the past changed where they shouldn't. And Eobard explains that it was like a sonic boom through time, which is something that, if I'm not mistaken, it came back in the comics. I think it was this year or late last year, but I think it was at the beginning of this year, in Doomsday Clock, where Manhattan talks about changing time just like that. In those comics, time gets changed just like that. Like everything, like when he said like everything shifts a little. That's how Dr. Manhattan's plot was set up in the end, like how he changed time and how he changed it back. So yeah, watching all the alternate takes of Batman, Cyborg, Joker, you don't really get to see the Joker being the Joker, but you get to see her origin, because in here is Martha Wayne who becomes the Joker after Bruce gets killed, and Thomas Wayne is the one who becomes Batman instead of Bruce. And it's like you can see where Thomas's priorities are since the beginning, since he meets Barry, because as soon as he mentions that Bruce is alive on his universe, he doesn't care of anything. He starts trusting him, he starts working with him, even though everything Barry says seems out of the realm because they don't have speedsters in this world. He still goes on with it just for the possibility of his son being alive. That's why Thomas is one of the best characters in this movie. And it was also cool seeing Cyborg working for the president at the time of this movie came out. Barack Obama was the president, so it was nice seeing him again as a president in the big screen. So that was cool. And the war between the Amazonians and the Atlanteans, which ended the world technically, it changed the world. And that's one of the things that I think gets explained by Eobard's explanation of why time changed. Because if you know, in the comics, Flashpoint still exists, but as a separate universe. And if you take what Eobard said, that if you change a drastic moment in life, it's a time boom, everything shifts a little. So maybe by Barry going back in time, stopping himself, that created like a time shift where the world never ended, and it kept on going after the war, or however it got solved. I don't really know that much about the Flashpoint universe after this point. I know that it comes back in the comics, but I don't know much about that. So one of the things that I didn't remember and that it really drew me off from the movie was that it seems to run at like 25 frames or 24 frames per second. I don't know exactly if it's 24 or 25. That is usually the standard movie frame rate. But on some scenes, they have like suddenly, for no reason at all, it suddenly changes to a 60 frames per second, which you can see by how sharp they look and without blurriness. And that kind of drew me off, because there was this one scene that the characters were in 25 frames or 24, and then there was these chips that came up flying and they were on 60 frames. I don't know why, and it looked so weird in there. I know that usually 60 frames is because motion, and since it's Barry Allen, like you need to see him run, and maybe you want to see him like on full motion, like crisp and with a nice image. But no, if you want to stick to 25 frames, stick to 25 frames. Don't shift frames like this. It looks very weird, because at the end when he was running around the city, it changed again to 60 frames. And I'm guessing that's the reason, that it's to show motion, but it still looked a lot like too weird for me. Oh, and I forgot to mention the deaths, which is one of the most memorable things about this movie. There are characters that are dying left and right. all around the movie. When it comes to Flashpoint, there are two deaths that are probably the most memorable of them all, which one of them being Billy Batson, since he was just a kid and he was just murdered right in front of his family. And the other one is Eobard Thawne, which after delivering this speech to Barry about how he was selfish because he went back in time only to save his mother, he didn't change any other stuff in time, he gets shot by Thomas Wayne in his head, like from out of nowhere. And that is why that is one of the most memorable death scenes in any movie. So yeah, with that in mind, I give Flashpoint the rating of 9.5 lightnings out of 10. You know, Flashpoint, we all know about Flashpoint. We've all seen Flashpoint at this point, maybe. I don't know if you haven't. Why? I watched it again only because, like I said, I want to watch Apokolipse Wars. And I really think that watching all the movies, since I've only watched two, watching all the movies from the beginning, it will really set me up pretty well for that movie. Even though that I heard that you don't really need to watch all the movies, I still want to do it because I want to know every single character. I want to get involved with every single one of them, just because I know some of the things that happen in that movie. It will be a lot better if I am emotionally connected to them. So if you haven't watched Flashpoint, I don't know why, go watch it. If you have, then tell me what you thought about it in the comments below. Also, I know that you've noticed that I have a new mic. I think it's awesome that I was able to get this mic because before this I had like a boom mic mounted on the camera, and I felt like I was always like screaming, because if you know me, especially if you have played games with me, you know that I speak on a very low voice, and I usually people don't hear me. It also happens when I'm taking on like classes for college. Like I speak and nobody can listen to me, and having this mic is pretty awesome because now I can feel like I can talk normally without forcing myself to scream. But also I think that it gives me possibility for other type of content, which is something that I want to mention, that I don't want this channel to only be movie reviews. I know that I mentioned that I wanted to do tutorials, but the state of my laptop, I can't record and run my editing program at the same time. So I'm planning on new content, different type of content. I already have two things in mind, but if you want to see anything else, please recommend me anything down below. I will be reading the comments. So now, when all is said and all is done, I'll see you on the next upload. Bye.